husband's doing this to his wife, like I say, it might be funny for 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. But then she's like, okay, that's enough. And he's like, but and he keeps tickling her thinking it's fun. And that's like the Arrested Development where the little boys are riding on their car and they're banging against the other cars. And one of the other little boys or little girls fall off their car and they laugh and go look for their next victim, not caring how a wife feels. So excessive tickling is right here in physical abuse. Twisting arms, using weapons, spanking. When it says spanking, there is actually this bizarre underworld in America where the couples actually believe that it's legitimate for a husband to spank his wife. And I'm not talking about somebody that might do that just because it's fun for them and sex and they both, whatever, this is talking about they spank their wives because their wives are not acting right. And what do they call it? It's called taking it. I'm not going to tell you the name of the website. Anyway, it's just ridiculous. It's the underworld. There's another underworld in America of men who dress up like in diapers. They put diapers on and like they come home from work and they immediately take their clothes off, put their diapers on. They sleep in cribs. It's just bizarre. It's a whole underworld. We had a couple where the husband did that years ago and he got completely delivered. Never did. It's been many years. We're still in touch with him to this day, with him and his wife, and he has never gone back to that. All right. Yep. Smothering. Okay, so this physical abuse is like a guy's like, telling his wife, you better settle down, and and she's getting more upset, and so he jerks her down, and starts spanking her. It's like smothering, tripping. Okay, so that's physical abuse, and hopefully most of you have never done any of those type of physical abuses. If you have, repent, apologize to your wife, and don't ever do it again. All right, so now we'll get into what most guys do. Male privilege. Treats his victim like a servant. Makes all the decisions. Acts like master of the castle. Now, male privilege can be one of the most common ways that men do male privilege is they'll tell their wife, hey, we need to be careful on our spending. You need to quit spending money. And the next thing you know, he's coming home with a new motorcycle or a new four-wheeler or some other toy, a new stereo, a new TV. He never called his wife, never talked to her about it. And she'll say, what are you doing? He'll say, well, I work. I make the money. It's male privilege. Now, just for fun, and again, our wives, you can kind of check your own hearts and all. One of our local friends here, the Kathy's friend calls her and says, Kathy, you know what you and Joel talk about, male privilege? I think my daughter has female privilege, and her daughter was married. Now, keeping everything in context, her daughter's husband was into pornography, and he was a liar. And instead of his wife or his mother-in-law lowering the boom, they were both pacifying him. They were both like, oh, you poor baby. Oh, you must have hurts and wounds, and that's why you look at porn. And, and they wouldn't follow our lead in marriage ministry, just Kathy's friend, and, just didn't follow the way we'd recommend to do it. So here, understandably, this wife, her husband's into porn. He lies a lot. But the wife handled the money. It's Kathy's friend's daughter. And the couple was young. They're like 25 years old or something. So she says, Mom, I told my husband, she said, my husband, we'll call him Dan. Dan told me he needed more money for work this week because he drives from Palm Coast to Daytona Beach to work. And I told him, I'm sorry, Dan, you just have to figure it out. There is no extra money. And she said about 10 minutes later that her daughter said to her, hey, Mom, want to go out to lunch at the mall on Wednesday? My treat. So I think my daughter has female abuse. Female privilege. Yeah, female privilege. But again, her husband was into porn and lied all the time. So again, women are responders. So yeah, she shouldn't have been doing that. She was definitely functioning in female privilege. But why was she doing it? She was reacting to a bad husband. All right. Knowledge abuse. This is a guy that gets therapy, maybe he goes to seminary, uses self-help books, then he comes back and abuses his wife with the knowledge he has, but he does not take responsibility for his own personal behaviors. Of course, I did that to Kathy for years. I mean, I'd hand her books on submission, So I'd read these books on how a wife's supposed to submit to her husband, and I'd be telling Kathy, Kathy, you need to submit to me and follow my leadership. I'm the head of the home and all that. And so definitely abused Kathy with knowledge abuse. Sexual abuse demands unwanted or bizarre sexual acts. There's an underworld in America of people that they choke each other. It's almost kill each other. It's just bizarre, bizarre sexual acts, physical attacks to sexual parts of the body, treats her as a sex object, interrupts sleep for sex. Now, this is a guy that wakes his wife up in the middle of the night and just wants to have sex all the time and doesn't really care how she feels. Kathy told me years ago, she said, Joel, if you ever wake up in the middle of the night, you want to make love, I don't mind, you can wake me up if you want, but very seldom ever did that. I mean, of course, I said to Kathy, if you ever want to make love in the middle of the night, feel free to wake me up, but I don't, maybe in our whole marriage, I might have woke you up in the middle of the night 2 or 3 times in all those years. Yeah, Kathy didn't bother her, because it wasn't like something I was doing like all the time, on a regular basis, that's for sure. Let your wife sleep. And ladies, if you wake up in the middle of the night, your husband probably would not mind if you wake him up for sex. Like, hey, Kathy, anytime you want to wake me up in the middle of the night, want to make love, go for it. Just wake me on up. I don't mind. Okay, back to sexual abuse. Husband forces sex, exhibits extreme jealousy. And Jesus said a man who lusts after another woman has committed adultery in his heart already. And so sexual abuse would be a guy looking at pornography because it's the same as committing adultery, and et cetera. Okay, number 5, humiliation. A lot of guys do this to their wives. Humiliation is hostile humor, publicly criticizes their wife, degrades her appearance. Oh, man, you got to build your wife up, man. Don't ever degrade your wife's appearance, man. Build your wife up. Her parenting skills, her housekeeping, cooking.
If I was upset or something, you would tell me to go get my makeup on, get my hair right.
In our really bad days, mainly if Kathy was crying or she was hurt, and she'd come and want to talk to me about it. Of course, the makeup's running and face scrunched up, and all. I say, Kathy, you need to go wash your face off and put your makeup on, get yourself looking normal before you want to talk to me. So, all right. So humiliation again is hostile humor, publicly criticizing your wife, degrading her appearance, degrading her parenting skills. Oh my gosh, guys will do that, and most women, if you just let them be, they'll be great moms. What messes women up is their husbands either start being too disciplinarian, and the husbands are being the big ogre, and the wife starts having to protect the kids from the big ogre, and then she becomes this overly permissive mom that lets her kids get away with murder, or her husband doesn't want to discipline at all, and he just wants to be their friend, and so she ends up being the taskmaster. And this poor girl would have been a great mom if she'd have just had a husband that would just support her and be a blessing to her concerning the kids. Humiliates her about her cooking or housekeeping, forces her to eat food she doesn't like. And again, we don't see much of that, like forcing her to eat food she doesn't like. You'll see that if you get into like Middle Eastern men and married to Muhammad type guys.
Yeah.
Responsibility abuse. He makes his wife responsible for everything in life, i.e. bills, parenting. You can't dump everything on your wife, guys. You got to carry the load. Medical abuse. Hurts his wife and does not allow her to receive medical treatment, does not allow her to receive medical treatment for normal health issues. Now, again, we might not have anybody on the phone that's ever abused their wife with medical abuse. So all 21 of these are not going to apply to anybody. So hopefully once we get through 21, hopefully there's been 10 or 15 that did not apply to you. So I'm not sitting here suggesting that every one of these things apply to every husband on the phone. Yeah. Religious abuse. Uses scriptures and words like submission and obey to abuse his wife, spiritual language. Of course, I was a king spiritual abuser, probably as bad as any husband anywhere on the planet. I was really bad with the spiritual abuse. Using children. Uses the children to give messages. Uses visitation rights to harass his wife. Uses child support as leverage. Number 10, isolation. Controls what is done, who is seen, who is talked to, limits or listens in on phone calls, sabotages her car, restricts outside interests,